Good evening, I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Regional diplomacy is under strain tonight as escalating tensions between Thailand and Cambodia force the delay of a special ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, while Thailand moves to cut a fuel route amid the deepening conflict. All that and more coming up on AWANI International. Diplomatic efforts to halt the escalating Thai-Cambodian conflict have suffered a setback after a special meeting of Southeast Asian foreign ministers was postponed at Thailand's request. Malaysia's foreign ministry says the meeting, which could have brought together top diplomats from both sides, was originally scheduled for Tuesday, but has been pushed to December 22nd.
The postponement came as Thailand and Cambodia continue exchanging artillery, rocket, and drone fire at multiple points along their disputed border. However, no reason was given for the delay. The scale and geographic spread of the clashes, from forested areas near Laos to coastal provinces, is described as unprecedented in recent decades. Authorities say more than 500,000 people have been displaced, with at least 38 killed on both sides in 8 days of clashes. U.S. President Donald Trump has called for an end to the violence after helping broker a truce in July, but has so far failed to stop the renewed hostilities. Bangkok insists that any diplomatic breakthrough must begin with a clear ceasefire proposal, while Phnom Penh maintains it is acting in self-defense, leaving the path to talks uncertain as fighting continues.
Thailand has halted fuel shipments through a key border checkpoint with Laos, saying it fears supplies are being diverted to Cambodia amid intensifying border fighting between the two neighbors. The move comes as clashes enter a second week, displacing hundreds of thousands and derailing regional efforts to broker a ceasefire.
Thailand's military said it had restricted all fuel movements through the Chongmek border crossing into Laos after intelligence suggested the supplies were being routed to Cambodian troops. Defense Ministry spokesperson Surasan Komsiri said the measure was not intended to affect Laos, but was necessary due to security concerns. Thailand is also considering limiting the movement of its vessels in high-risk Cambodian waters where they could come under fire. Trade data shows Thailand has not exported oil to Cambodia since July, while Singapore remains Cambodia's largest fuel supplier by sea. The Thai and Cambodian militaries are clashing at multiple locations along their 817-kilometer land border, with no signs of the fighting abating despite international efforts to negotiate a ceasefire, including calls by U.S. President Donald Trump.
That's the headline for tonight. More news coming up shortly after the break.
Malaysia perlu bergerak daripada sekadar menjadi pusat pembuatan kepada sebuah negara pencipta teknologi chip sendiri yang mampu memberi nilai tambah lebih tinggi kepada dunia. Kerajaan bersetuju untuk mempertimbangkan agar pengusaha bot di Sabah dan Sarawak turut layak menerima subsidi petrol RON 95. Sabah kini memiliki 2 tapak rizab biosfera susulan pengiktirafan diberikan kepada kinabatangan oleh UNESCO.
Australia is planning for stronger gun laws following a deadly shooting at Bondi Beach in Sydney that killed 15 people. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese convened an urgent national cabinet meeting on Monday where premiers and first ministers unanimously agreed to strengthen rules around firearm ownership.
Measures under consideration include fast-tracking a national firearms register, limiting the number of guns an individual can own, and further restricting the types of weapons that are legal. State and territory leaders have commissioned their police ministers and attorneys general to review the proposals. They will also consider making Australian citizenship a requirement for obtaining a firearm license. The federal government also announced it will begin work on possible customs controls for gun imports, including 3D printed weapons, emerging technologies, and firearms equipment capable of holding large amounts of ammunition. Australia already has some of the strictest gun laws in the world, introduced after a 1996 mass shooting that killed 35 people. The latest attack saw a father and son opening fire during a Jewish Hanukkah gathering at Bondi Beach. The father was later killed at the scene, while his 24-year-old son remains in critical condition in hospital.
Hong Kong media tycoon and pro-democracy activist Jimmy Lai has been found guilty of conspiring to collude with foreign forces under China's national security law. A pre-sentencing hearing is scheduled for January. The conviction could see Lai face life in prison.
The High Court ruled that Lai, the founder of the now defunct Apple Daily newspaper, conspired to seek foreign intervention against Hong Kong and publish seditious material. Judge Astro said there was no doubt Lai held long-standing hostility towards China. Beijing has long accused Lai of working with foreign powers to destabilize the city. Lai has already spent 5 years in jail and now faces possible life imprisonment under the sweeping security law imposed by Beijing after the 2019 pro-democracy protests. The verdict has drawn sharp criticism from rights groups. Amnesty International says the case highlights the systematic crushing of press freedom in Hong Kong.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has signaled that his country is willing to drop its bid to join the NATO military alliance in exchange for Western security guarantees. The move marks a major shift for Kiev, which has long sought NATO membership as a safeguard against Russian attacks. While it aligns with one of Russia's stated war objectives, Kiev has continued to reject demands to cede territory as part of the drafted 20-point peace plan. Zelensky held talks with US envoys and European representatives in Berlin on Sunday as part of ongoing efforts to end the war with Russia. Negotiations are expected to continue later today amid pressure from US President Donald Trump to reach a settlement by Christmas. US envoy Steve Witkoff said a lot of progress was made during the initial 5-hour meeting, while Zelensky's advisor added that the president would provide comments once talks conclude on Monday. Japan's only 2 giant pandas will be returned to China in January as relation between the two countries remains strained. The move will leave Japan without China's iconic bears for the first time in 53 years.
Japan currently has a pair of twin pandas, Lele and Xiao Xiao, housed at Tokyo's Ueno Zoo, which has previously cooperated with facilities in China and the US to successfully breed giant pandas. Lele and Xiao Xiao were born in 2021 to their mother, Shinshin, who arrived in Japan in 2011 and was returned to China last year. They are now scheduled to be repatriated 1 month before their loan period expires in February. The animals were loaned under China's panda diplomacy program and have long symbolized the normalization of diplomatic ties between Japan and China since 1972. Local media report Tokyo is seeking the loan of a new pair, though any arrival in the near term is considered unlikely. Ties between Asia's two largest economies have deteriorated in recent months, after Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said Tokyo could intervene in the event of a Chinese attack on Taiwan.
Far-right candidate Jose Antonio Cas of the Republican Party has won Chile's presidential runoff election to become the country's 38th president. With almost all ballots counted, Cas earned more than 58% of the vote, defeating the ruling left-wing coalition candidate, Janet Jara.
Jara conceded defeat to Cas and congratulated him on social media. Cas's victory is seen as part of a recent trend of right-wing victories across Latin America, including in Argentina and Ecuador. The 59-year-old will take office on March 11, 2026. The runoff came after a first round of voting on November 16th, in which Cas and Jara emerged as the top two candidates. The president serves a 4-year term, and Chile's constitution prohibits presidents from immediate re-election.
COP30 has come and gone without a clear plan to phase out fossil fuels, and the United Nations says Asia Pacific can no longer wait for global consensus as temperatures climb. Extreme heat is now the region's fastest growing climate threat. Tiziana Bonapace from the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, or ESCAP, warns that annual losses could reach $500 billion by 2100, with the energy sector particularly at risk.
We foresee that certain parts of Asia will experience more than 100 days of such heat and heat extremes in the coming years. The losses projected to almost 500 billion, which is around 1.1% of regional GDP. The sectors that are most, that are likely to be most affected are both in the urban areas and in the rural areas. Underlying both the urban and the rural sectors is the energy sector. And already, at peak heat seasons, many of, Asia's capital cities, just to mention two, Delhi and Bangkok, heat results in grid capacity being exceeded very quickly. And of course, then this goes hand in hand with lower generation efficiency and wastage, of energy. So this is, the energy sector is another one of the sectors that it will be severely affected without the necessary investments done in a proactive way.
Bonapace also warned that heat waves are shifting from short episodes to chronic, long-duration events, affecting health, labor, food systems, and infrastructure. She called for stronger regional cooperation, proposing cross-border green cooling corridors as a shared solution.
The proposal is to identify these hotspots and to map out their expansion, and then to have countries that operate under a sub-regional cooperation program facilitated by ESCAP, to have these countries come together and agree on implementing cooling initiatives. And primarily this would consist of planting of trees. Planting of trees that are able to withstand drought, planting of trees that are able to absorb carbon, and that generally, would bring a restoration to the degraded land, and that would also, reduce the extreme heat that will be experienced in the future.
That concludes AWANI International tonight. Stay with us as we track the strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Thank you for watching and good night.